Welcome back to Never Done Ask with me, John Martin, and we have another station review. We return to the Style Line in South Manchester. And welcome to East Didsbury. East Didsbury Station sits on Wilmslow Road, next to the large flat junction with the A34 Kingsway. The area around the junction is known as Parswood, part of the larger East Didsbury. Didsbury Village is, unsurprisingly, to the west, and Heaton Mersey to the east. The station sits on the Style Line, probably better known as the Airport Line. Burnage, next station north, just under a mile. Gatley, a bit over a mile to the south, on the south side of the River Mersey. The Style Line was conceived in response to the growing congestion on the main route between Manchester and Stockport. In 1899, Parliament passed a bill authorising construction of a new route. Work by the London North Western Railway began in 1901. The railway officially opened in 1909, forming a link from Slade Lane Junction in Longsight, just south of Manchester, down to Wilmslow, skirting the busier main line via Stockport. Its initial purpose was to act as a bypass for express trains, but London North Western built some modest stations along the line to serve the emerging suburban communities. The station opened up with the line as East Didsbury and Parswood, and it was a mainly wooden structure. After the 1923 railway grouping, operation of the line passed to London and Midlands Scottish. Following nationalisation in 1948, it became part of the British Rail network. William Rovert Headley, the architect of the London Midland section of British Rail, rebuilt this station. This was the pioneer for the Mod X modular system of easily configurable buildings in a modernist style. In the mid-20th century, the line took a new role with the modernisation of rail infrastructure. As part of the post-war electrification programme, the Style Line was electrified in 1959. Making it among the early adopters of electric suburban rail in the Manchester region. May 1974 saw the station drop and Parswood to take its current name. In 1993, a major development reshaped the line's function. A new spur was constructed between the stretch at Hill Green Station and Style to provide a direct link to Manchester Airport. The airport link transformed the route from a suburban bypass to a vital corridor, connecting central Manchester, the southern suburbs and the airport. The platforms here were extended in 2023. We have two side platforms here, both on an embankment. To cross between the platforms, you need to go down to the road and come back up the other side. The southbound platform is 150 metres long, the northbound 146. This station is a Class E station, smallest category of staffed stations. To access the southbound platform, there is a service road, but the Manchester-bound platform is reached by just a ramp from Wilmslow Road. Marks for services, 5 out of 10. Northern trains run the majority of the services here. There are hourly trains each way between Liverpool and Manchester Airport via Newton Willows, and hourly trains between Manchester Piccadilly and Crewe via Manchester Airport. These stop at the local stations along Style Lines. It's 9 minutes from Manchester Airport, 15 minutes to Manchester Piccadilly, it's 35 minutes to Newton Willows, and an hour 10 to Liverpool. Crewe is just over an hour away, with trains to Crewe waiting about 15 minutes in the airport. Weekdays, East Didsbury also gets a fast service from Transport for Wales, being the only stop between the airport and Piccadilly before heading off to Chester and Llandudno. Chester is an hour away, Llandudno 2. Sunday service, well, there isn't one from Crewe, and the Liverpool service runs every 2 hours, if it runs. But there are northern services to Barrow Windermere from the airport. This means that East Didsbury gets a much better service than some of the other stations on the line, like Maldorf Road, which we reviewed right at the beginning of this series, despite Malderf Road being the busiest station in terms of passenger numbers. Is this fair? Leave a comment. I don't personally think it is, but you can decide. The most popular destination is Manchester Piccadilly, with 45,894 journeys, followed by Manchester Airport, Liverpool Lime Street, Manchester Oxford Road and Gatley. At the time of writing, the 24-25 figures had just come out, but to keep things consistent, the next few videos will use the 23-24 figures, as I don't tend to record and write these in the order they go up. But new year, new figures, hopefully. The station had 260,310 entrances and exits, which works out to be 713 passengers a day. With 708 services per week, we get just over 7 passengers per service. Passenger figures are making their way back up to pre-COVID levels. However, this is a station whose passenger peak was 2012 to 2013, before the nearby tram station opened. Marks for onward travel, 5 out of 5. So we're speaking of the tram station. We have a tram station nearby. Trams from here run on the East Didsbury to Rochdale Town Centre line via Chiltern, Trafford Bar, Manchester Victoria and Oldham every 12 minutes. Also every 12 minutes there is a shorter East Didsbury to Shore and Crompton service. That gives us 6-minute service for the majority of the line. Evenings and Sundays the shore service doesn't run. And now for buses. We're on Manchester's Wilmslow Road / Oxford Road. The corridor, which is supposedly Europe's busiest bus corridor, but a very busy part is in the city centre. But out here we're still quite well served. The 142 bus runs most frequently. It runs between Paulswood and Manchester Piccadilly Gardens, through Didsbury Village and then through the universities. The 42 takes the same route from Piccadilly Gardens, and most go on to Stockport, though a few terminate at Paulswood. The 42A, B and C also take the same route from Manchester. The A goes to Redditch, B goes to Cheadle Hulme and Woodford, and C goes to Hild Green and Handforth Dean. In the evenings, the 42A doesn't go to Manchester, but terminates nearby on Millgate Lane in East Didsbury. The 23 follows the 42 from Stockport to Didsbury and then heads out to the Trafford Centre. The 171 bus runs from Millgate Lane to Gorton, Droylsden and Newton Heath, and this stops by the station. Paulswood bus station is also the terminus for the 50 and 51 buses that go via the city centre to Salford Quays, and it's also served by the 371 that runs between Stockport and Altrincham. At this point, I should make a shout out to my former colleague Dan, who worked at the university with me and lived next to the station. Confronted with a choice of train, tram and multiple bus routes, the bus routes did stop right next to work, he chose to drive, despite parking costs and admitting getting the bus back was far less stressful. But car owners be car owners. Marks for accessibility, 7 out of 10. It's a staff station, although not full time. Staff leaving after lunch. There are indicators and a PA system. Both platforms are level access, although crossing between platforms does involve going back down to the road. Marks for station facilities, 3 out of 10. There are covered shelters and seating. The Manchester bound platform has station building. We have a ticket office and waiting area. There are no toilets here. There is a small car park on the approach road, which is on the southbound platform, with 15 spaces, 2 accessible, and there is a bike park. Metrolink's tram stop has a 278 space car park for park and ride, although that's free with a Metrolink ticket. Marks for care and character, 8 out of 20. You've got to give this place plaudits for being a pioneering station for modular construction style. And it's good that there is still a station building here, whereas other stations on this line have not got one. but the Mod X style was not great and just leads to bland stations. This is very much a commuter station, so all the investment went into the Manchester-bound station, which has the building, rather than the airport-bound platform, which is just a shelter. Although the airport-bound platform is easier to access thanks to the approach road. We have some nice murals on Wilmslow Road under the bridge, but other than that, it's just generic. It is reasonably well kept. Marked for nearby things, 6 out of 10. Opposite station is a Tesco Superstore. Walking past that gets you to the tram tracks. You can take a right to get you to the Metrolink station. This saves a lot of running past traffic lights at the junction. We have a couple of takeaways and shops opposite, and then coming around to onto Kingsway, we have an Indian restaurant and a gym. Over the road from that is a Wetherspoons, and then over the road from that is the Pathwood complex with a cinema, a bowling alley, bunch of restaurants. Also, there's a Travelodge here with a pub carvery. So if you want a sub Wetherspoons experience with higher price and the worst beer, this exists. We're not far from the River Mersey, and Didsbury Village is about a quarter of an hour walk. Overall, we get 34 out of 65, which comes out at 52%. I don't like the station, mainly because I don't see why it gets extra services where more used stations along the line don't. The extra facilities and nearby attractions it has over Burnage and Maldorf Road are not reflected by the passenger numbers. But what it does do, it gives an accessible station with plenty of transport links, and there are things to go and do here if you are here. So hope that reflects in the ratings rather than my personal grump about the service levels. Thanks once again for watching this as I travel around the country. What do you think? Do you like the station? Do you know why Maldorf Road has less stopping services than this place? Please like, subscribe, ring that bell if you want to be notified of the next station review from somewhere else on this network. I've been John Martin, and see you next time.